My name is Wesley, and today I'm talking about my absolute favorite way to catch bass. Crankbaits. How to rig them, how to fish them, and how to tune them. Let's get started. If you guys have any questions about how to tie a crankbait or what crankbait to use in what situation, leave them down in the comments below and I promise I'll get back to you. And also the gear that I use, specifically the crankbaits that I use the most, I'll link them in the description below so you won't have to go searching for them. With that, let's get started. Tying a crankbait is just like, at least I tie on a crankbait just like I tie any other bait on. You can use your favorite knot. I know a lot of guys use the Palomar knot. I typically use a fisherman's knot and it's worked just fine for me. Now, you'll see on the bill that there is a split ring and there's also another ring on some bills like this one. And you want to tie to the split ring and through the split ring. This allows the crankbait to actually have the natural action that it's supposed to, or the erratic action that it's supposed to, that triggers bites. If you tie directly to the metal loop that's in the bill or the body of the crankbait, it actually won't perform like it's supposed to. I'm not saying you won't catch fish, it just won't be as effective as it was intended to be. How to tune them. If you cast the crankbait out there and you'll notice that it tends to either want to come up and run sideways and doesn't actually want to dive down and get to the depth that it's supposed to, you can actually take pliers and bend this little hook, this loop, back a little bit one direction or the other until you get it to run true and straight. Because if you do get it, you bend it the direction you think you're supposed to, and if it's the wrong direction, then just bend it back the other direction until you get it running straight. And instead of it running sideways and crooked, it should run straight in theory. Color selection. Crankbaits come in a variety of colors. You've got reds, you've got chartreuse, you've got clear ones like this, you've got brown crawdad ones. I mean, just any color you can basically imagine. The crankbait comes in it to try and catch fish with it. But color selection doesn't have to be complicated. Clear waters, go with clear baits, natural colored baits. Murky or dirtier waters, you can go with your chartreuses and your bright, other bright colors like this neon yellow. Early spring is another selection time where a lot of times your reds outperform every other color. A lot of people think it's because the crawdads are starting to move out and the crawdads are that color, so they call it a crawdad red, and it works. That's the only theory that I've got on it, so if it works, I'm gonna throw it. But in the springtime, reds, clear water, natural colors, murky water, you can move on to brighter colors. Size selection. Now you can see here I've got two completely different crankbaits. This is a deep diving crankbait, and this is actually what we call a lipless crankbait. They serve two very different purposes. This one is a deep diving crankbait, so it's gonna go dive deep into the water, and most of the time we're gonna use this for like midsummer, late summer, when the fish are starting to move deeper and try to find that cooler water instead of the hot water. So it can go anywhere from 12 to 25 feet is typically how deep some of these deeper diving crankbaits run. Whereas this lipless crankbait, though it will sink and suspend a little bit, it's typically gonna run 3 to 8 feet at the max, and 8 feet's honestly really deep for it. It's probably gonna be closer to 6. Whereas a square bill, shallow diving crankbait like this is going to stay like 3 to 4 feet, 5 feet maybe if you're really burning it. And that's it. They're not designed to go any deeper. It's really designed to get to the bottom and start bouncing off the bottom at 2, 3, maybe 4 feet. That's how you choose your crankbait, based on the depth that you're fishing. So if you're fishing in that 2 to 4, 5 feet range, shallow diving crankbait. If you're going deeper, get a little bit bigger crankbait, go a little bit deeper until you are hitting the bottom. Now that we've talked about color selection and size selection, let's move on to actually how to fish it and what gear you need. Fishing a crankbait is simple, and that's probably why I love it, because you really can't overcomplicate it. Cast it out and reel it back. As long as you are coming in contact with the bottom, with some kind of structure, something, more than likely the fish are going to hit it. Even though they're not designed really for grass, if you can get it along the edge of grass and sometimes get hung up and just jerk it out, you can cause a reaction strike just by doing that. And a lot of guys love doing that because it's a really fun bite. But typically, you're going to cast it out and you're going to burn it down to the bottom, and then you're just going to keep it in constant contact with the bottom. If you're not getting bites that way, then try slowing it down. For example, in the wintertime, you are going to have to fish it a lot slower just because the fish are moving slower. Whereas once you get into springtime and early summer, you can begin to speed that up and really burn it. I'm talking like 50 degrees and below, you're going to want to go slow. 50 to 55, go a little bit medium, and 55 and above, you can burn it. The gear that you're going to need to use with a crankbait, first of all, the rod. A crankbait rod is highly recommended. They've got a lot more give to them, so when you set the hook, you're not ripping it out of the fish's mouth, and it actually, what they call, loads up as you're reeling it, so you won't basically rip it from the fish's mouth. When you set the hook, it's got a little bit more give for the fish to really get a hold of it, and then it sets the hook. The line, you want to use fluoro. Mono, it tends to float and it won't allow the crankbait to actually dive down to the depth that it's intended for. So using mono line, it's okay and it works. I've caught fish doing that, but fluorocarbon is the correct way to go. If this video helped you in any way, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. We just appreciate it more than you'll ever know. As always, remember, education it's very important. But fishing, you're talking my language. Now fishing is essential.